I'm sorry, but a fart's a fart, whatever stamp you want to put on it. My mother was a barrister, lawyer, not coffee maker, and she'd tell you the same. Most educated woman I knew. But because bleeding Polly's had 1 or 2 elocution lessons, she thinks the word's beneath her, despite them actually being, you know. Besides, flatulence is a funny word. It is. It's amusing. I couldn't help but laugh. The way she said it, you should have heard her. And the look I got for laughing. She shouldn't even have brought it up. We were having a lovely lunch, and she has to go and... What it was she was telling us about this woman who passed wind while waiting in the post office queue. And because she said pardon instead of sorry, Polly kicked up a right fuss. Apparently, according to Polly, pardon me is for passing gas and not wind. And I was like, well, what's the difference between gas and wind? It's not like gas and electric, is it?
We are sand, when you think about it.
What? Has the sea air got to you or something?
No, listen. Mum and Dad were our rocks. They literally gave their lives for ours. They corroded and left us behind. In their place. We are the memory. It's our responsibility now to be the rocks, to produce our own sand. And that might mean being worn down by annoying and tedious trips to Adventure Island year in, year out. Because even though the name has changed, nothing else has. You hear that? That noise. That screaming, laughter, joy, pain, anger, it's all there. All the same. Families stitched together by a shared experience. Place. Doesn't matter what that thing or place is. When you're there, it's yours. Your own. No one else's. Despite having to wait hours in a queue full of other people, it doesn't matter. Because they're not really there, it's just you and the moment. People say things like, it was better when I was a child. Yeah, well, duh. That's because you're a child, and you've yet to discover all the crappy things about life. All those things that put a dent in those magical, enchanting parts of living. But it's not really them, it's you. You're the one that's changed. And if you can remember that, then I think you'll be happier, more content with what you have.
Maybe. For a second there, I really thought you were going to pull out Everywhere's Adventure Island.
Almost. But even though we'll start a new legacy, tradition, it won't matter. Because they could change the name of that place 100 times and it would still be ours. Those memories, moments,
Pain.
life.
I think I'm actually quite happy just being a lost boy for now. I think some people were just born to drift.
William Shakespeare Who, he said to thus, whilst I was travelling at a gracious speed on a bus. What bizarre contraption that moves so smooth yet so robust. Thou wind hit me in thy face abrasively by yonder light, that doth creep through thy chink in thy window so gracefully. Thou sat next to a boy whose clothes were baggy. A bad tailor hath dressed him to look shabby. His face grim and unpleasant, burning bright orange, and yet seemed disturbed by thy presence. Looked at me with dagger eyes, addressed me, "You what?" to mine surprise. I asked questions of this common soul, little knowledge he doth show. I could not believe what words had fell my ears. How could he not know of who I speak, unless he planned a devious mote, and this was all done in tongue-in-cheek? A practical joke. But even so his jest was weak, for to not know thus I would have wrung his throat. Blinded by his own stupidity he spoke. Listen to what he said, I doth quote. Isn't he that one that wrote those stories? The ones that involved like love and that, with Roman and Julie, and like Ye Old Balcony. You know, that bloke going bald on top with a tash and feathery pen, wears all the weird clobber, speaks in riddles and tongue, and with proper English. He don't bother. Looks a bit like you, innit? Born ages ago, probably in like some sort of wooden den, at the time when electricity wasn't invented. How the hell did they entertain themselves then?
No, I'm sorry, but it's
But if
absolutely...
you just looked at...
Oh, would you just? They've been in this country for hundreds of years and never did anyone any harm.
Well, maybe this is what they want us to believe.
They? God, you really need to stop reading free papers.
I feel sorry for the guy who hands them out. You know, so many people just walk past him without even acknowledging him. And...
That's because they clearly have more sense. And you should feel sorry for the poor paper that utter garbage is printed on. The deforestation that must happen.
Yeah, don't go changing the subject.
It's not a subject or an issue. It's a topic to be discussed while making awkward conversation with the person who reads your meters.
Actually, I forget the last time I had my meters read.
Exactly. So, shh.
So you don't believe in evolution, then? You don't believe
It's
that...
a daddy longlegs, for goodness sake. Nature's greatest blunder. They're an exhibit against evolution, if anything.
Did you know they're part of the arachnid family? Huh? Did you know that? They're technically a spider. Cellar spider or something. People always sharing those photos on social media about there being flying spiders one day and them being mankind's worst nightmare and all that. But guess what? We've been quietly living with that nightmare. Because that's what they are. Flying spiders. And we call them daddy long legs as a way to dumb down the horror. To try and make them seem flippant. But they actually have the most dangerous, deadly venom.
It's a myth. An overblown...
It's not. They just can't penetrate our skin with it.
Well, there you go. It's irrelevant.
Until the day it does become relevant. That's my point.
That bloke died of heart failure.
They suspect he did. But there are several witnesses that say he was fine 1 minute and then the next...
That's what happens when your heart suddenly fails. That's why
No, but he was seen batting away at Daddy Longlegs just before he...
Coincidence. That's all conspiracy theories are. One big coincidence.